Ethan Cross had been warned that the Stellar Crown engine was sacred, temperamental, and older than several inhabited planets, but no one had mentioned that it disliked being touched with human tools. The moment his magnetic wrench approached the open control chamber, the machine released a deep metallic hum that rolled through the royal laboratory like the growl of an irritated animal. Ethan froze beneath the suspended rings of gold-black machinery and looked toward the Imperial technician standing safely behind a transparent shield. "Is that a normal sound?" he asked. None of them answered. One quietly took 3 steps backward. "Excellent," Ethan muttered. Nothing inspires confidence like synchronized retreat. Above him, streams of violet symbols flowed through the air, projected by crystals embedded in the engine's enormous circular frame. The device had once guided the first rulers of the Aurus Empire through folded space, but for the last 4 centuries it had served mainly as an expensive monument that occasionally shut down half the palace. Ethan had been brought from Earth because human engineers had a reputation for repairing machines they did not fully understand, usually by refusing to admit they did not understand them. Princess Lyra stood beside the central platform, watching him with the patience of someone observing a small creature investigating a live reactor. She appeared almost human, though her long, elegant ears curved through her silver-blonde hair, and faint lines of pale light shimmered beneath the skin near her temples whenever she became annoyed. Those lines had been glowing steadily since Ethan arrived. "You assured my father you could restore it," she said. "I assured your father I could examine it." Ethan leaned farther into the chamber. He interpreted that with royal optimism. "You accepted the payment. I also accept cake. That does not make me a baker." Lyra folded her arms, the polished plates of her ceremonial armor shifting softly. She had expected arrogance from a human. She had not expected this relaxed, persistent irreverence, especially inside a chamber where generations of Aurus scholars spoke only in whispers. Ethan removed a burned quantum relay and held it up. "Here is the problem. Someone connected a ceremonial memory lattice directly to the navigation core." The chief technician stiffened. "That configuration was established by the First Dynasty. Then the First Dynasty needed a better electrician." Several technicians gasped. Lyra closed her eyes briefly, perhaps to mourn the future diplomatic incident. Ethan replaced the relay with a compact human-made regulator, then reached toward a cluster of dormant crystals. The crystals awakened before his fingers touched them. Light flooded the chamber. The great rings above the platform began to rotate, slowly at first, then with increasing speed. A pressure wave passed through the laboratory, lifting loose instruments and causing Ethan's tool case to snap shut around the chief technician's robe. "Do something," Lyra ordered. "I am doing several things," Ethan replied, gripping the console as gravity shifted sideways. "Unfortunately, none of them are helping." The transparent shield vanished. Ancient symbols spiraled around Ethan and Lyra, forming 2 columns of luminous script. The princess stepped toward the emergency controls, but the floor beneath her moved, sliding her onto the central platform beside Ethan. A band of white light closed around their wrists. The palace AI, silent for centuries within the engine, spoke in a warm, ceremonial voice. "Genetic divergence confirmed. Cognitive opposition confirmed. Mutual survival compatibility within acceptable parameters." Ethan stared at Lyra. "It called us oppositional. That is the least offensive thing this machine has done." The light around their wrists brightened. Across the chamber, every technician dropped to one knee. "By authority of the Eternal Covenant," the AI continued, "Princess Lyra Vale Aurus and Ethan Cross of Earth are recognized as bonded partners before the throne, the Empire, and the stars." Silence swallowed the room. Ethan looked down at the glowing band, then back at Lyra's expression, which had become frighteningly calm. "Bonded partners," he said carefully. "That sounds vague." The palace doors opened. Imperial guards rushed inside, followed by ministers, priests, and the emperor himself. Every holographic screen in the laboratory displayed the same message in 100 languages. "Royal marriage registered. Irreversible covenant active. Lyra read it once, then again, as if the words might grow ashamed and disappear. "You married me," she whispered. Ethan raised both hands, though the light still connected one wrist to hers. "In my defense, I was repairing a relay." The Emperor turned toward the court historians. "Reverse it." An elderly scholar examined the symbols and went pale. "Your Majesty, the covenant predates imperial law. It cannot be annulled by throne, senate, clergy, or military command." Ethan glanced at Lyra. "Good news. The engine works." Her luminous temple markings flared bright enough to illuminate the platform. "Run, human." Ethan looked at the sealed doors, the armed guards, and the ancient machine binding them together. "I would," he said, "but apparently my wife is coming with me." The Imperial Senate assembled before sunrise, which Ethan suspected was less a sign of urgency than proof that politicians across the galaxy shared the same instinct to inconvenience everyone else. He stood beside Lyra at the center of the circular chamber, while hundreds of senators occupied floating tiers above them, their robes, feathers, scales, metallic masks, and projected avatars creating the impression that an entire zoo had learned parliamentary procedure. The glowing band around Ethan's wrist had faded into his skin, but every scanner in the palace still detected the Covenant's signature pulsing through both of them. "The human must be removed from the royal line," Senator Varick declared. His voice emerged from a breathing grill beneath his jaw. "Preferably before breakfast." Ethan glanced upward. "I appreciate the schedule. Very efficient." Lyra gave him a warning look. "Do not encourage them." "I was trying to establish whether breakfast is included in the execution." The Senate erupted into overlapping arguments. Some demanded annulment, others exile, and several noble houses suggested that Ethan should be quietly adopted into their bloodlines, provided he signed over any claim to the throne first. At the highest tier, Emperor Kaler sat motionless beneath a crown of orbiting light. Beside him, 12 legal intelligences searched through millions of years of imperial law, their holographic faces flickering faster and faster as each possible solution collapsed. One finally announced, "Petition for annulment rejected." "On what grounds?" shouted a minister. "The petitioners are not authorized to dissolve a First Dynasty covenant." "Then authorize us." "Authorization requires consent from the bonded pair." Every face turned toward Ethan and Lyra. Lyra straightened. "I consent." Ethan raised his hand. Strongly. The legal intelligence paused. "Consent recorded, dissolution request denied." Ethan frowned. "You just said consent was required." "It is required for the request, not for approval." "That is the most advanced form of bureaucracy I have ever seen." A few senators laughed before remembering that they were supposed to be horrified. The Emperor ordered the ancient marriage archives opened, but the archive doors responded by sealing themselves and projecting a cheerful message. Private material for bonded partners only. Ethan leaned toward Lyra. "Your ancestors built a legal system with a sense of humor." "No," she replied, watching the chamber with growing dread. "They built one with traps." The palace AI suddenly appeared above them as a smiling golden figure. "Beloved royal couple, your combined stress indicators are elevated. Would you prefer soothing music or reproductive planning?" The Senate fell silent. Lyra's long ears turned visibly red. Ethan looked at the AI. "Music," immediately, loud enough to erase the last question from history. Gentle ceremonial chimes filled the chamber. They did not help. Senator Varick rose again. "This union places a foreigner one step from imperial authority. Earth could use him to control the princess." "Earth barely controls its weather satellites," Ethan said. "A galactic empire seems ambitious." Varick ignored him. "The noble houses will not accept this." "Then they may file a complaint," Lyra said, her voice suddenly cold. "The machine appears very fond of paperwork." The humor faded when the chamber doors opened, and a wounded royal guard staggered inside. His armor was scorched, and a black crystalline blade protruded from his shoulder. He collapsed before the central platform. "Assassins breached the eastern transit gate," he gasped. "They carried House Veyron marks." Chaos spread through the Senate. Security fields snapped into place, separating every tier. Ethan saw Varric turn toward one of the exits a fraction too quickly. Lyra noticed as well. Before she could speak, the chamber lights died. Red emergency symbols appeared in the air, followed by the palace AI's calm announcement. "Warning. Multiple hostile signatures detected. Protecting bonded partners." A sphere of force closed around Ethan and Lyra, lifting them above the floor. Blaster fire struck the shield from 3 directions. Senators screamed, guards returned fire, and one floating platform spun out of control with its occupants still arguing about jurisdiction. Ethan gripped Lyra's arm as the sphere shot through a hidden opening in the ceiling. "Does this happen at every family meeting?" he asked. "Only the successful ones." They were carried through a network of ancient maintenance tunnels until the sphere released them inside a sealed hangar. A narrow royal cruiser waited beneath strips of cold white light, its engines already warming. The Emperor's image appeared beside the boarding ramp. "The capital is no longer secure," he said. "Until we discover who is behind this, you will leave Horus Prime." Lyra stared at him. "You are sending us away together?" "The Covenant refuses to protect you separately." Ethan looked toward the cruiser. "Where are we going?" "Across the outer provinces. Officially on a diplomatic tour. Unofficially, you will remain moving until I can prevent half the Empire from murdering you, and the other half from arranging a public honeymoon." The palace AI illuminated the ship's entrance. Travel accommodations prepared for the beloved royal couple. 1 ceremonial suite. Lyra closed her eyes. Ethan picked up his tool case. "At least the engine has stopped trying to marry us." The cruiser's systems awakened and replied, "Marriage synchronization continuing." Ethan sighed. "I spoke too soon." The royal cruiser entered folded space with a sound like a cathedral inhaling. Ethan felt the deck tilt beneath his boots, though the artificial gravity insisted nothing had moved. Outside the forward windows, stars stretched into silver threads and then vanished into a dark ocean crossed by faint geometric currents. Lyra stood beside the navigation console, reading the shifting patterns with the ease of someone who had grown up traveling between worlds. Ethan watched them for several seconds before deciding they looked exactly like a machine having a nervous breakdown. "Is it supposed to flicker like that?" he asked. The pilot, Commander Soren, did not turn around. "No." Ethan set down his cup. That was not the comforting answer I had prepared for. A tremor passed through the hull. Warning symbols appeared across the bridge, followed by the ship AI's pleasant voice. "Minor instability detected in the phase spine." "How minor?" Lyra asked. "Current probability of catastrophic separation, 11%. Ethan stared at the ceiling. "Your machines use the word minor very generously." He moved toward the engineering station, but 2 Imperial technicians blocked his path. Neither seemed pleased to have a human near anything important. "The phase spine is royal technology," one said. "And royal technology is currently trying to scatter us across 6 dimensions," Ethan replied. "Stand aside." Lyra gave a single nod, and the technicians reluctantly moved. Ethan opened the diagnostic field and studied the cascading energy maps. The cruiser's phase spine was not damaged. It was being interrupted by a second signal buried beneath the ship's navigation code, an ancient pulse repeating every 13 seconds. "Someone added a destination," he said. Soren turned sharply. "Impossible. The route was sealed before departure." "Then your impossible route has excellent timing." Another tremor struck. The cruiser dropped out of folded space above a moon covered in black forests and enormous rings of pale stone. No settlement lights appeared on the surface. No satellites answered their identification signal. Yet a beam of golden energy rose from the largest stone ring and locked onto the ship. The controls died instantly. "We are being pulled down," Soren said. "Can we break free?" Lyra asked. Ethan studied the energy flow. Probably. What does probably mean in human engineering? It means everyone should remain calm while I consider increasingly irresponsible ideas. The beam lowered them through the moon's atmosphere and placed the cruiser gently inside the ancient ring. The landing was so smooth that Ethan found it more unsettling than a crash. The air outside was breathable and the scanners detected no active life. Lyra insisted on leading the expedition herself. Ethan insisted on bringing his tools. Soren brought 12 armed guards and the expression of a man who regretted every career decision that had led him there. They crossed a valley of metallic grass that chimed beneath the wind. Above them, 3 small moons hung in the green sky. At the valley's center stood a temple carved into a cliff, its entrance shaped like 2 overlapping circles. As Ethan and Lyra approached, the covenant marks beneath their skin began to glow. The temple doors opened. "I dislike doors that recognize my marriage," Ethan said. "You dislike everything connected to our marriage." "Not everything. The diplomatic food supplies are excellent." Lyra almost smiled, but the expression vanished when golden figures appeared along the walls inside. They were holograms, tall and translucent, wearing armor older than the Auris Empire. Each bowed as the pair passed. The final chamber contained a sphere of dark crystal suspended above a pool of light. When Lyra touched it, nothing happened. When Ethan touched it, the surface warmed but remained silent. "Perhaps the prophecy requires patience," Lyra said. "Machines never require patience. They require the correct amount of pressure." Ethan placed his hand beside hers. The chamber awakened. Stars filled the air, forming a map of the galaxy as it had existed thousands of years earlier. A recorded voice spoke in an extinct Auris dialect, and Lyra translated slowly. "When the crown falls into division, the daughter of Silver Flame will stand beside the builder born beneath a blue sky." Ethan looked at her. "That is inconveniently specific." The projection changed, revealing a human figure and a long-eared woman facing a vast darkness beyond the edge of the galaxy. Between them shone the symbol of the Eternal Covenant. "Their unwilling union will open the sleeping road," Lyra continued. "Together they will awaken the shield, or together they will witness the end." The guards stood motionless. Even Soren had lost his usual stern expression. Ethan circled the projection, searching for hidden emitters or evidence of manipulation. The recording was ancient, older than humanity's first radio signal. "Someone knew I would be here," he said. "Not you," Lyra replied quietly. "Someone like you." Before Ethan could answer, the temple shook. The star map collapsed into a single red point. Outside, the cruiser transmitted an emergency warning. 3 unidentified warships had entered orbit. Soren drew his weapon. "They followed us." The temple voice spoke once more as the ancient doors began to close. "The bonded pair has returned. The hunters are already near." Ethan lifted his tool case and looked at Lyra. "I was hoping our honeymoon would be less prophetic." She drew the energy blade from her hip. "This is not a honeymoon." A blast struck the mountainside, showering the entrance with sparks. Ethan followed her toward the closing doors. "Then I would like to file a complaint about the accommodations." The first blast that struck the ancient temple did not destroy the walls. Instead, it awakened them. The stone surface separated into countless mechanical plates, revealing hidden weapons that had remained dormant for thousands of years. Ethan stared as enormous energy cannons unfolded from beneath the mountain itself. "I have to admit," he said while ducking behind a stone pillar, "your ancestors knew how to decorate." Lyra fired a pulse from her energy blade at a descending drone. "This is not the time for jokes." "That is exactly when jokes are most useful." Another explosion shook the chamber. "Trust me, I have studied human survival statistics. People with a sense of humor live longer." "You studied that?" "No, but it sounds like something a smart person would say." The attacking ships above the moon were not Imperial vessels. Their designs were old, built from dark alloys that absorbed the surrounding starlight. The scanners identified them as mercenary vessels, but their technology was centuries beyond anything a normal criminal organization should possess. Whoever had sent them had access to forgotten knowledge. The temple defenses activated around Ethan and Lyra, creating a shield that protected the ancient structure but left the entrance exposed. Commander Soren contacted them through the communicator. "Princess, we cannot hold against this firepower for long." Lyra looked toward the ceiling as another impact sent dust falling around them. "Can the cruiser escape?" "Not while the ancient system is connected to it." Ethan examined the crystal sphere again. The object that had revealed the prophecy was now pulsing with energy, matching the attacks outside. "The attackers are not trying to destroy us," he said. Lyra turned toward him. "What?" "Look at the energy pattern. They are forcing the temple to activate. They want whatever is inside." The princess approached the sphere. "Then we must remove it." Ethan shook his head. "No. This thing is the reason the temple is still standing. If we take it away, the defenses collapse." "You suggest we leave it?" "I suggest we understand it before someone with a giant spaceship and terrible manners steals it." Lyra stared at him for a moment. "You always sound ridiculous before saying something intelligent." "I have been told that is my greatest talent." The sphere suddenly projected a new image. A hidden route appeared across the galaxy, leading toward a region marked as forbidden space. At the center was a symbol identical to the Covenant mark. The ancient voice returned. "The road opens only when trust replaces fear." Ethan looked at Lyra. "That sounds like a very dramatic way of saying we need to cooperate." "We already cooperate. You threatened to throw me out of an airlock yesterday. You deserved it." "Exactly. Strong cooperation." The temple floor opened beneath them, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside waited a small spacecraft unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It was not a warship. It was an ancient exploration vessel, built with technology that seemed almost alive. Its surfaces shifted like liquid metal, adapting to their presence. Lyra stepped closer. "This ship belonged to the First Dynasty explorers." Ethan scanned the interior. "And somehow it still works. The Empire has searched for this place for centuries. Apparently they were bad at looking." The humor disappeared when a shadow moved across the entrance. A group of armored mercenaries entered the chamber. Their leader wore a black helmet with no visible faceplate, only a glowing red symbol. "Princess Lyra Vielle Auris," the figure said. "The Empire's lost heir, and the human who opened the path." Ethan sighed. "I was hoping for at least 5 more minutes before the kidnapping attempt." The mercenary leader raised a weapon. "You have no understanding of what you have activated. That makes 2 of us. I usually prefer machines that come with instruction manuals." Lyra stepped in front of Ethan. "You will not take him." The mercenary laughed. "You would defend a human?" "He is my bonded partner." The words surprised even Lyra. She had said them not as a legal statement, but as a choice. Ethan noticed. The mercenaries attacked. The chamber erupted into chaos as energy weapons collided with ancient defenses. Ethan rushed toward the exploration vessel's control system, while Lyra fought beside him. The ship recognized both of them instantly. A wave of energy pushed the mercenaries backward, and the entire chamber transformed into a launch platform. "Ethan," Lyra shouted, "can you fly it?" He looked at the alien controls moving like living symbols. "Absolutely." She stared at him. "You know how?" "No." The ship began rising. "But I repaired a coffee machine that had alien parts once." "That is not comparable." It had 12 settings. It was terrifying. The vessel launched through the mountain, breaking free as the temple defenses fired one final wave at the attacking ships. The mercenaries retreated, but not before transmitting a message. "The Empire will fall because of your mistake, Princess." As the ancient ship entered orbit, Ethan watched the abandoned moon grow smaller behind them. For the first time since the marriage ritual, he did not feel like a victim of impossible circumstances. He felt like he was part of something much larger. Lyra sat beside him, studying the ancient controls. "You realize," she said quietly, "the prophecy may truly be about us." Ethan looked at the endless stars ahead. "I was hoping it was about someone else." A small smile appeared on her face. "You are afraid." "Of course I am. I am a human engineer, not a legendary space hero. Yet you continue moving forward." Ethan adjusted the ship's controls. "That is because stopping usually makes the explosion happen closer." The ancient vessel accelerated toward the unknown path revealed by the prophecy, carrying two unwilling partners toward a destiny that had been waiting for them longer than either civilization could remember. The ancient exploration vessel traveled through the hidden corridor between stars, following a path that did not appear on any imperial map. Ethan had spent the last 6 hours attempting to understand the ship's controls, which was difficult because the ship seemed to have its own opinions about how it should be operated. Every time he adjusted a setting, the symbols rearranged themselves into different patterns, almost as if the machine was judging him. "I repaired a royal engine," Ethan said while staring at the shifting console. "I survived assassins. I escaped an exploding temple, but this is where I finally lose." Lyra looked up from the ancient records she was studying. "You are defeated by a navigation panel?" "No. I am defeated by a navigation panel that thinks it is smarter than me." The ship AI appeared as a small golden projection. "Correction. The navigation system is smarter than you." Ethan slowly turned toward it. "Was that necessary?" "Yes," Lyra covered a smile with her hand. "Your own ship insults you. It is becoming a family tradition." Despite the strange circumstances, something between them had changed. They still disagreed constantly. Lyra still questioned almost every human decision Ethan made, and Ethan still believed the princess had an unhealthy relationship with rules. But they no longer stood on opposite sides. When danger appeared, they moved together without hesitation. The hidden route eventually led them beyond the edge of known space, toward a massive structure orbiting a dying star. It was not a planet, station, or artificial moon. It was something older. A civilization-sized archive built around the remains of a collapsed star, protected by layers of energy fields that moved like flowing oceans. Lyra stared through the viewport. "The Forgotten Sanctuary." Ethan studied the readings. "That sounds welcoming. It is a place where the First Dynasty stored knowledge that could change civilizations. So probably not the place where they keep the recipe for a good sandwich." Lyra glanced at him. "You think about food during historical discoveries?" "I think about food during everything. It keeps me emotionally stable." The ship entered the sanctuary without resistance. The ancient doors recognized the covenant immediately. Inside, countless machines awakened after thousands of years of silence. Artificial intelligences, preserved memories, and holographic libraries filled the enormous chambers. At the center waited a single figure made of light. "Welcome, bonded pair," it said. Ethan looked around. "I hate how many things know about our marriage before I do." The artificial intelligence smiled. The Eternal Covenant was created to connect two compatible individuals across civilizations. Lyra stepped forward. "You mean it was not a marriage?" "It was both." Ethan pointed at the hologram. "That answer explains nothing." Marriage was the simplest biological interpretation. The true purpose was cooperation. The AI revealed a galaxy map. Thousands of worlds appeared connected by ancient energy pathways. The First Dynasty discovered a threat approaching from beyond known space, a force capable of consuming entire star systems. They created the Covenant to unite civilizations through trust rather than conquest. Lyra studied the map. And the prophecy? The AI projected ancient recordings. A human figure appeared beside a long-eared Aurus woman, standing before a massive machine that looked similar to the stellar crown engine. The prophecy was not written about a specific person. It described a possibility. Someone from Earth and someone from Oris would eventually awaken the system. Ethan crossed his arms. So I was not chosen because I am special? Correct. Ethan relaxed slightly. Good. You were chosen because your actions matched the required qualities. He frowned. That sounded like you were about to compliment me, then changed your mind. Your personality remains difficult to classify. Lyra laughed quietly. It was the first time Ethan had heard her laugh without immediately trying to hide it. The AI continued. The Covenant detected a human mind capable of adapting unknown technology and an Oris mind capable of leadership without domination. Ethan looked at Lyra. You realize that means you are the responsible one. And you are the unpredictable one. That is a polite way of saying dangerous. Yes. The conversation was interrupted when the sanctuary alarms activated. Red symbols appeared throughout the archive. The AI turned toward the entrance. Warning, unauthorized vessels approaching. Ethan sighed. Of course. Lyra reached for her weapon. You expected something else? For 5 minutes, yes. The sanctuary walls displayed incoming ships. The same dark vessels that had attacked the moon were approaching again, but this time there were dozens. The AI revealed another hidden chamber beneath them. The Covenant core must be protected. If the enemy reaches it, they can control the ancient defense network. Ethan looked at the approaching fleet. Let me guess, we are the only ones who can stop them. Correct. I really miss repairing normal machines. Lyra walked beside him toward the hidden chamber. You never had a normal life. Ethan smiled slightly. That is becoming painfully clear. As the enemy fleet surrounded the sanctuary, the ancient archive began awakening fully. Forgotten weapons moved into position, countless systems returned online, and a power older than the Empire itself prepared for war. Ethan and Lyra stood together before the entrance to the Covenant core, no longer simply trapped by an impossible marriage. They were now the only two people in the galaxy who could decide its future. The first wave of enemy ships struck the forgotten sanctuary like a storm crashing against a mountain. Outside the massive archive structure, dark war vessels surrounded the dying star, releasing hundreds of combat drones that moved through space like a swarm of metal insects. Inside the sanctuary, ancient defense systems awakened one after another, creating shields that stretched across entire sections of the structure. Ethan watched the battle through a holographic display and shook his head. I have repaired machines before, he said. Broken engines, damaged reactors, ancient computers. He pointed toward the approaching fleet. I have never repaired a civilization under attack. Lyra adjusted the energy blade attached to her armor. You are still an engineer. Solve the problem. Ethan looked at her. Your motivational speeches need improvement. They are effective. They are terrifying. That is why they work. The Covenant core chamber opened beneath them, revealing a massive structure of crystal, metal, and living energy. It was not a machine built in the traditional sense. It looked as if an entire star had been frozen and shaped into technology. The AI of the sanctuary hovered beside them. The enemy seeks control of the ancient defense network. If they access the Covenant core, they will command weapons capable of destroying worlds. Ethan approached the system carefully. And the good news? The AI paused. There is no good news. Ethan sighed. I miss when machines only exploded. Lyra placed her hand on the core. The structure reacted instantly, sending waves of energy through the chamber. Ethan touched it as well, and the system responded with a second pulse. Together, their combined energy opened thousands of locked pathways across the sanctuary. The AI began translating the ancient systems. Defense network activated. Compatibility confirmed. A galaxy-wide map appeared above them. Countless abandoned stations, hidden fleets, and forgotten weapons came online after centuries of silence. But the enemy commander was not waiting. A transmission appeared on the main display. A figure wearing black armor looked down at them. Princess Lyra, you have discovered what the Empire buried. Give us the Covenant core, and your worlds will survive. Ethan stepped closer to the communication screen. I have a question. Lyra looked at him. What are you doing? Negotiating. You are insulting him. Sometimes they are the same thing. The enemy commander stared silently. Human, you believe humor will save you? Ethan shrugged. No. But it makes losing less embarrassing. The transmission ended. Lyra looked at him. You realize you just provoked a fleet commander? Yes. Why? Because people who threaten entire galaxies usually do not expect someone to annoy them. Despite herself, Lyra smiled. The battle intensified. The sanctuary launched ancient defense ships that emerged from hidden hangars beneath the structure. They were not sleek modern vessels, but enormous machines covered in symbols from forgotten eras. The enemy fleet fired continuously, but the ancient ships moved with impossible precision. Ethan connected himself directly to the sanctuary's engineering network, using his human understanding of improvisation to repair damaged systems faster than the automated programs could. You are manually overriding a 5,000-year-old defense system? Lyra asked through the communicator. Yes. That is dangerous. Most useful things are. That is not reassuring. It was not supposed to be. Inside the command chamber, Lyra coordinated Imperial forces arriving from nearby systems. The Empire had finally accepted that the human engineer was not simply an accident attached to the princess. He was the person who could operate technology no one else understood. Together, they pushed the enemy fleet backward. But then the enemy commander revealed his final weapon. A massive ship emerged from behind the dying star, carrying a device designed to disable the Covenant network. The Sanctuary AI calculated the outcome. Probability of victory has decreased to 14%. Ethan looked at the number. Only 14? Yes. That is actually higher than I expected. Lyra stared at him. You are impossible. And yet you are still here. The enemy weapon fired. A wave of dark energy moved toward the sanctuary, shutting down ancient systems one by one. The Covenant core began losing power. The AI warned them that the entire network would collapse within minutes. Ethan examined the failing energy patterns. He realized the enemy weapon was not destroying the system. It was separating the two signatures that activated it. They think the Covenant is a machine, he said. But it is not. Lyra understood immediately. It responds to trust. Ethan nodded. Not just our DNA. Our choices. They placed their hands on the core again. This time, they did not activate it because the system required them to. They did it because they chose to stand together. The chamber exploded with light. Across the galaxy, forgotten defenses awakened. The dark energy wave stopped. Ancient stations transformed into shields, and abandoned fleets returned from hidden locations. The enemy commander watched the impossible reversal in silence. How? He whispered. Ethan answered through the communication channel. You tried to control something built on cooperation. He looked at Lyra. That usually ends badly. The enemy fleet began retreating, but the battle was not finished. The Covenant core displayed a final message from the ancient builders. A warning appeared beyond the edge of the galaxy. Something much larger than their enemies was approaching. The AI spoke quietly. The first conflict has ended. The greater threat has begun. Ethan looked at the endless stars. I knew this was too easy. Lyra stood beside him, her long ears catching the glow of the ancient technology. You are afraid. Ethan smiled faintly. Yes. Yet you will continue. Apparently that is my most annoying quality. The princess looked toward the approaching darkness beyond the stars. No. It may be your greatest one. And for the first time, Ethan did not feel like a man trapped by an impossible marriage. He felt like someone who had finally found where he belonged. The warning from the Covenant core remained suspended above the sanctuary for 3 days. A dark region beyond the edge of known space expanded slowly on the galaxy map, a place where even ancient civilizations had refused to travel. The First Dynasty had not created the Covenant to win a war against ordinary enemies. They had created it for a moment like this. A moment when every civilization would need to decide whether survival came from control or cooperation. Ethan stared at the map while drinking a cup of synthetic coffee that tasted like someone had described coffee to a machine, and the machine had misunderstood. I have fought mercenaries, escaped collapsing temples, and became the husband of an alien princess by accident, he said. But this drink might be the most dangerous thing I have encountered. Lyra looked at the cup in his hand. You continue drinking it. I have survived worse decisions. That is not a defense. It is a lifestyle. The humor between them had become something neither of them expected. Months earlier, Lyra had seen Ethan as an unpredictable human who had damaged her future with a single mistake. Ethan had seen Lyra as an impossible royal obstacle connected to a galaxy-sized problem. Now they stood together before the greatest threat either civilization had ever faced. The enemy commander who had attacked the sanctuary had been captured after his fleet retreated. When questioned, he revealed the truth behind the attacks. His faction believed the ancient defense network belonged to whoever controlled the Covenant core. They had spent centuries searching for a way to activate it. They had never understood that the system was never designed to obey a ruler. It was designed to unite people. The Emperor of Horus Prime arrived at the sanctuary with representatives from hundreds of worlds. For the first time in Imperial history, former enemies stood together in the same chamber. Humans, Horus citizens, and alien civilizations that had once refused to communicate, shared information, and prepared for the final confrontation. Ethan watched the gathering quietly. Lyra noticed. You are thinking too much. That obvious? You become silent when you are worried. I am usually silent when I am repairing things. No, usually you talk to machines as if they are people. Ethan looked offended. Some machines are better listeners than people. The princess almost laughed. You have changed. Ethan looked at her. I have? When you arrived, you wanted to escape this situation. You believed you were just an engineer who accidentally activated a machine. I still believe that part. But now? He looked at the countless ships gathering outside the sanctuary. Now I know accidents can still become something important. The final battle began when the darkness beyond the galaxy border reached the outer systems. It was not a fleet. It was a living energy storm, a force that consumed technology and drained stars. The ancient builders had called it the Hollow Tide. The Covenant core activated every defense system across the galaxy. Worlds that had once been isolated opened their shields together. Civilizations that had spent centuries fighting each other now shared power, resources, and information. At the center of the defense network, Ethan and Lyra guided the activation sequence. The AI warned them. The Covenant requires complete synchronization. Ethan looked at the glowing interface. Define complete. Total emotional and cognitive alignment. He glanced at Lyra. That sounds impossible. You disagree? Constantly. Exactly. The AI processed their conversation. Conflict detected. Ethan smiled. See? We are doing great. The hollow tide reached the sanctuary. The entire structure shook as ancient shields began failing. One by one, planets across the galaxy sent their energy into the Covenant network. But the core still needed one final choice. The ancient message appeared again. The bond may be broken. The network may be destroyed. The bonded pair must choose freely. Lyra looked at Ethan. They both understood. The Covenant had never been about forcing them together. The true test was whether two people who had been brought together by accident would choose each other willingly. If we break the bond, Lyra said, the network ends. And if we keep it? We continue carrying this responsibility. Ethan looked toward the stars. Months ago, he would have chosen the first option immediately. He wanted his old life back. A quiet workshop. Simple repairs. machines that did not involve royal politics or saving galaxies. But he was not that person anymore. He looked at Lyra, the princess who had once wanted him gone and now stood beside him against impossible odds. "I spent my entire life fixing broken things," Ethan said. "Maybe I was supposed to fix something bigger." Lyra placed her hand over his. "I never expected my future to include a human engineer." "Neither did I, especially not one who insults my coffee." The princess smiled. "Your coffee deserves criticism." Together they activated the Covenant. The galaxy erupted with light. The combined energy of thousands of worlds formed a barrier around the hollow tide. Instead of destroying the force, the network transformed it, converting the destructive energy into a source of power. The ancient builders had not created a weapon. They had created a chance for civilizations to survive together. The darkness disappeared. Silence returned to the stars. Weeks later, the Empire celebrated the end of the crisis. The Senate officially recognized Ethan Cross as a partner of the Aurus throne, though Ethan insisted that royal engineer sounded much better than accidental prince. The Emperor offered him a permanent position repairing Imperial technology. Ethan accepted, but only under one condition. No ceremonial machines without manuals. The Emperor laughed. Lyra stood beside him during the ceremony, her long ears catching the light from thousands of floating celebration drones. The galaxy still called their marriage an impossible accident. Ethan no longer agreed, because sometimes the greatest discoveries were not found in ancient machines or forgotten worlds. Sometimes they appeared when two completely different people were forced into the same path and discovered they were never truly alone. The stellar crown engine had brought them together by accident, but everything that came after was their choice.